We're going to look at the first stage or the first part of defining and understanding the problem, which is defining the problem. And I consider this as the most important facet of the software development lifecycle. If the development team doesn't identify and define the problem correctly, it's going to create a series of problems that will occur in the later stages of the development lifecycle. So it's extremely important that the problem itself is correctly defined and also understood, and feasibility of a solution is discussed and identified. There are two main parts of defining the problem. The first of these is the understanding and identifying the problem. So this would be carried out by the system analyst, and they would analyze the problem with the user themselves, and they would try and identify the difference between what are the needs from the user's point of view and what are their wants. Often the user will have a series of wants that in terms of either their budget or their time constraints may not be feasible. So it's the analyst's job to try and separate the needs, what is actually needed and what is actually wanted. The next step from the system analyst is to construct a list of objectives. Now these are passed on to the developer or the programmers, and they're the intended solution, and they're in a series of steps that can be materialized, and they can also be assessed or evaluated within the testing and evaluation stage. So they're exactly what the user intends from a solution. Boundaries, they're aspects that are part of the environment of the system, so they're not actually included within the system themselves. They may be things that are external. The second part is determining the feasibility of the solution. So it's very, very important for the software development team that they undertake a solution that is feasible. If a solution is not feasible, then whether it's in planning, design, or implementation, development will have to stop and restart again, which is therefore going to cost time and money. There are four core areas of assessing feasibility. The first of these areas is budgetary, the second is operational, the third is technical, and the fourth is scheduling. The system analyst must analyse the solution in accordance with those four areas, and present back to the development team whether the intended solution is actually feasible. If it's not, if it fails one of these four areas or more than one of these four areas, then a possible alternatives must be considered, developed, and therefore also undertaken a feasibility study. So we're going to have a look at an example of a scenario. And what we're trying to identify here is the solution to this scenario feasible? And we're going to try and develop what would be some assumptions that the system analyst may make, and also what are some questions that they may pose to the user. So if we look at the scenario, Parameta Marist is currently using a customized off-the-shelf application as the means of their reporting system. So they're obviously using something like Excel and doing a mail merge. The system at the moment is very labor intensive. It also has a high frequency of errors as data must be imported manually from a Marks database. So going back to boundaries, if we were creating this system there, the Marks database at the moment would be something that would be a boundary. It would be something that would be in the systems environment. They're looking at a custom software solution, mainly because of the complex nature of their reporting. So if we look at Parameta Marist context with PBL 151, that's something that they couldn't use an off-the-shelf application that other schools may use. The school's walkathon will be required to pay for the purchase of this system, so we know that a school's walkathon, or we can make the assumption it's roughly about $40,000. They want a system that fulfills their marketing and reporting needs, that's easy to use for all involved users. So obviously the system analyst's job is to identify what are the needs of the system, what are the wants, and then to assess the feasibility of a solution in terms of our four core areas. So a question asked is the solution feasible? So the first area of feasibility is budgetary. So basically we know that the budgetary, we would be asking one question is given the budget of $40,000, can a solution be constructed? So research would have to take place from the system analyst looking at, for something like this type of system, what would be the general cost of development, maybe also what would be the time frame. So they would look at similar solution budgets and timeframes. Obviously they can't use a similar solution because of the complex nature, but that would be the area in which that they would go. Also, in terms of feasibility, our next area is operational. Now, operational is can or does the developer themselves have the required skills. In terms of this scenario here, the complex nature is just the difference in the 151 and the PBL. It's not any complexity in actual the creating the software solution. So the developer themselves would definitely have the skills. There's nothing that is really that comprehensive in terms of programming skills. It's just more the reporting or the school based, from the user's perspective, that is a bit more complex than other solutions. So you'd have to say that in terms of operational feasibility, yes, something like this could be created. The next aspect is technical, and this looks at hardware and software. So is the hardware and software available? Now obviously this is a database that's going to record their marks. It's then going to generate some PDFs of reporting. Once again, there's nothing that specific there. Maybe if we're doing it online via PHP types of programming language, there may be some problems depending on storage capacity, that in terms of linking once again back to the budget. But at the moment, from what we've been given from the scenario, in terms of technical, there should be no problems there. The other one, the last one is and the last one is scheduling. So is the time frame appropriate? Now, there's no mention of a time frame, and this would be because basically the budget would dictate the time frame. So they've only got $40,000 to spend. So to hire a development team, it may cost $10,000 a month. So obviously they only have 4 months in which that they can fund this project for. So therefore, is 4 months appropriate for a solution of this sort, and that would all come back to the developer. So obviously, if all of these 4 areas must be met, if they're not, then another possible solution must be posed to the user and also the development team, and that would also then have to go through this type of feasibility study. So as I've stated there before, it's extremely important that the development team fully understand exactly what the user wants. Obviously, looking at this scenario here, there'd have to be probably some more questions that would be asked upon the user themselves. Probably some more answers are also needed. In terms of feasibility, they're the 4 areas. That's a bit of a snapshot of how this would be undertaken.